I'm Anna Harper, 34 years old, a painter who once dreamed of dazzling exhibitions in New York, who believed in stage lights and endless applause. But now I'm standing frozen in front of the dusty attic of our two-story suburban home outside Chicago, the place I once imagined would be my perfect sanctuary. The pale afternoon sun filtered through rotting wooden slats, falling onto canvases buried under thick layers of dust. Looking at them felt like staring straight into a mirror, distorted, wrinkled, buried alive. My hands trembled as I pulled back an old tarp, revealing frames with cracked wood and peeling paint. The heavy smell of mold rushed up my nose, dragging me back to those endless nights in my studio, hands shaking from the cold, from despair, yet still moving across the canvas as if my life depended on it. I remembered Daniel's 30th birthday, the man I once believed would be my lifelong anchor. I'd spent 3 months painting a portrait of us, me sitting in the garden, bathed in the glow of the setting sun, Daniel standing behind me, his hand resting gently on my shoulder, eyes filled with warmth and pride. I had hoped that painting would show him the depth of my love and my passion. But when he opened it, he just glanced at it, then tossed it aside with a sneer. "You really think this trash deserves to hang in my house? Don't embarrass me in front of my friends." I still hear the sound of that frame crashing onto the floor. It was the exact sound of my heart shattering. That night, I went into my studio, turned on the small lamp, and let my tears fall, soaking the smell of oil paint. I kept telling myself, he's just stressed from work. I tried to find excuses, convincing myself he loved me. He just didn't understand yet. But standing here now, staring at these discarded paintings, I finally see the truth. Daniel never really loved me. He only wanted a submissive wife, someone who would fade into the background of his shining career, never daring to step into the light. I bent down and picked up Hazy Dawn, the first piece I painted when we moved to Chicago. In it, a quiet lake reflected the soft light of a new day, shrouded in mist. I once believed it symbolized a fresh start, full of promise. But now, the painting is torn at the corner, its wooden frame rotted, just like my heart. Beside it lay my old sketchbook, its yellowed cover frayed and spine half detached. My fingers shook as I flipped through the pages, rushed pencil lines, scattered words scribbled in moments of raw emotion. I just want to be seen. Is this passion worth sacrificing everything? If one day my paintings were displayed for the world to see, those naive questions now felt like knives slicing deep into my skin. I looked down at my hands, nails digging so hard into my flesh they left angry red marks. I didn't recognize this woman anymore, the one who once thought love could save her, who believed art could bridge two souls. I remembered that night in Santa Monica when a friend complimented my work at a party. Daniel's face hardened immediately. "She only paints to kill time. Don't hype her up. She might start thinking she's a real artist." His voice was cold, eyes burning with anger. In that moment, I felt myself disappear right in front of everyone. The wedding photos from Santa Monica Beach still hung in the living room, silent witnesses to a delusion. I once believed the ocean waves that day symbolized bliss, believed his smile as he slipped the ring on my finger was real. But it was all just a facade, a shiny package to showcase a successful man with a docile wife who would never dare to outshine him. I collapsed to the floor, hugging the sketchbook to my chest. Inside me, the pain started shifting into something else, something sharper, fiercer. I no longer craved his approval. I didn't want his indifferent gaze or his hollow kisses anymore. I reached for a pen from the old wooden box, my hand trembling with rage, with the shame that had been buried for so long. I wrote on the last page of the sketchbook, I'll make you pay for calling them trash. I looked up at the chaotic attic. Each painting was a heartbeat, a dream he had tried to kill. I knew that from this moment on, I was no longer the Anna of yesterday. But then, in that heavy silence, a question echoed in my mind, swirling, cutting deeper. Were these paintings the key to reclaiming myself? I closed the sketchbook, wiped the smeared tears off my cheeks, and stepped down from the attic. It felt like I had just unearthed a piece of my body that had been buried alive for years. Downstairs, Daniel sat in the living room, feet propped up on the table, swirling a glass of whiskey, eyes glued to the TV. He had no idea I had just stood face to face with a graveyard of dreams he had so meticulously built. I walked into the kitchen, trying to steady my breath, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. I heard his mocking voice echo from the living room. "Anna, don't forget to prep dinner for tonight. I'm having a few friends over. And Emily will be joining." Emily. Just hearing her name made me want to vomit. Emily, Daniel's young assistant with her golden hair, legs so long every dress looked like it was gasping to cover her. I'd seen her sashay through our living room, crimson lips, that expensive perfume curling into the air like a direct slap to my face. Once, I overheard Daniel talking to her on the balcony. "Don't worry, she's got nothing left to offer. Just a shadow in this house. Once I'm done clearing out all that trash, I'll give you all my time." Trash. That was what he called my paintings, my soul. The countless nights alone, my loneliness turned into colors. He used that exact word. I had wanted to rush out and rip that shirt off him, to scream in his face that I wasn't some worthless pile of garbage. But I just stood there, frozen in the dark, feeling my blood turn to ice. That night, I quietly prepared the steak and salad he requested. I heard the doorbell ring, followed by Emily's sharp, tinkling laughter, slicing into my ears like glass. I stood in the kitchen, peeking through the crack in the door. I saw her step in wearing a tight red dress, lips so glossy they looked ready to slip off her smooth, bare shoulders. Daniel bent down, whispered something in her ear that made her burst into giggles, pushing lightly against his chest. "She's got nothing left to hold you," I heard Emily say, clear as day. I clenched the paring knife, my palm burning, every muscle in my body coiling like a snake. I wanted to rush out, chop off that golden hair, stab that bouncing chest. But I stood still, forcing myself to endure. I realized that if I acted now, everything would crumble. I needed patience. Daniel turned, glanced at me like I was a piece of furniture. He raised an eyebrow. "What are you standing there for? Bring out the food. You know I hate waiting." I lowered my head, carried out each plate, avoiding Emily's gleaming eyes. Each step felt like I was dragging chains. I set the plates down, listening to their shrieking laughter, inhaling that suffocating perfume. Back in the kitchen, my hand instinctively reached for the sketchbook hidden in the drawer. I flipped to the last page, staring at the words I wrote that morning. "I'll make you pay for calling them trash." I pulled out my pen and wrote underneath, "Tonight, I start recording everything. Every word, every gesture. This will be my proof." I closed the book, slipped it into my apron pocket, heart pounding like a war drum. A spark lit up in my mind. If I could document it all, capture every toxic word, every dirty secret between Daniel and Emily, I would have the weapon to turn everything around. I was no longer just a victim. I would forge every humiliation into a weapon. That night, as the guests slowly trickled out, Daniel walked Emily to the door, his hand gliding down her back, brazen and possessive. I stood by the stairs, shrouded in darkness, seeing every detail. Emily turned back, eyes gleaming with smug triumph. I didn't look away. Instead, I smiled, just a small, quiet curve of my lips. She froze, startled for a moment, but quickly burst into laughter again, tugging Daniel toward the car. When the door finally closed, I walked back to the table, sat down, and turned on the lamp. I opened my sketchbook, my hand still shaking, but my eyes suddenly sharp and bright. I wrote line by line, every word, every laugh, every intimate touch. Each sentence felt like sharpening a blade, getting ready for the day I'd strike back. When I finished, I leaned back in the chair, staring up at the ceiling. I thought about Hazy Dawn, my most cherished painting. I was going to take it back. I wouldn't let anyone call my passion trash ever again. But then, the question slid into my mind, slow and poisonous, like a whisper in the dark. Could I really turn this humiliation into the power I needed to destroy them? I didn't sleep that night. The bedroom felt enormous, the white sheets pristine, but cold as a morgue slab. Daniel came home late, the scent of Emily's perfume still clinging to his shirt. He tossed it onto a chair, yawned, and crawled into bed without so much as a glance in my direction. I turned my back to him, listening to his steady breathing, but in my mind, it sounded like a demon cackling in the dark. I opened my sketchbook, flipping through the pages. The words, "I'll make you pay," seemed to glow in the night. I underlined them slowly, then picked up my pen and wrote, "Tomorrow, I will find a way to reclaim everything. I will turn this pain into a weapon." The next morning, Daniel left early. I slipped into his office and searched for his phone. I knew the passcode, my own birthday, a cruel joke. Once unlocked, Emily's name immediately popped up at the top of his messages. My hand shook as I tapped in, reading every line. "Did you sell those paintings yet? I can't wait for that new Chanel bag, hee hee. Don't let her find out, babe. That trash is enough to fund our new project. You're the best. I'm so sick of seeing her ghost around your house." Each word felt like a slap across my face. The paintings, my soul, my sleepless nights, my loneliness turned into color, reduced to trash for a handbag and some stupid startup scheme. Suddenly, I heard the door open. Daniel came back in, laptop in hand, heading straight for the office. I shoved the phone back just in time, pretending to wipe the desk. He glanced at me, suspicion flickering briefly across his eyes before he brushed it off, his voice cold. "Stop snooping around my papers. I have a meeting with an auction partner this afternoon." I nodded, swallowing the burning lump in my throat. Daniel walked away, oblivious that I now knew about his plan to sell my paintings through Art House, one of the most prestigious auction houses. He was going to auction the entire collection, cash out, and start a new life with Emily. I stumbled into my room, collapsing into a chair, a cold sweat sliding down my spine. I frantically opened my laptop and searched for the broker Daniel mentioned, Vincent Rowe, a big name in New York's art scene, known for buying emerging artists' works and flipping them at insane prices. I remembered Vincent. Years ago, he complimented my work at a tiny Brooklyn show when I was still a nobody. He once told me, "You have a rare eye. Don't let anyone snuff that fire out." I had laughed it off then, but now he might be the key to my revenge. I dug through my old emails and typed a shaky message. "I'm Anna Harper. You once said I had a fire no one could extinguish. I need to meet you. It's about a set of paintings about to be auctioned." I hit send and trembled all over. In my mind, puzzle pieces started clicking into place. The paintings would be auctioned. Daniel didn't know I could contact Vincent directly. If I created a secret identity, I could buy them back, maybe even ruin Daniel financially. I looked out the front window. The breeze rustled the trees, The branches bent as if whispering to me, "Go, don't be afraid." By afternoon, Vincent replied, "Anna, of course I remember you. I'm surprised but intrigued. I'll be at my private gallery on Green Street at 6 p.m. tonight. Come." My heart pounded like a war drum. I changed into a simple black dress, threw on a long coat, and wrapped a scarf over half my face. Looking in the mirror, I didn't recognize the fragile Anna Harper anymore. The eyes staring back at me were sharp and cold, a mix of pain and unstoppable resolve. I arrived at the gallery at 5:50. Vincent looked just the same. Silver hair, a tailored suit, eyes sparkling when he saw me. He greeted me with a gentle hug, but I only nodded, keeping my distance. I poured everything out, how Daniel hid my paintings, humiliated me, and planned to sell them for Emily's amusement. I told him about the sleepless nights, about how he had twisted my passion into a joke. Vincent sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he sighed deeply, then suddenly smiled. "Anna, what if you buy back your own paintings? I can help you create a new identity, an anonymous collector. If we play this right, Daniel will never know." I felt my throat tighten as I nodded. Every word Vincent spoke jolted through me like an electric current, awakening something fierce that had been imprisoned for years. I would become Collector L, a shadow figure using my own art as a blade to cut the strings he wrapped around me. In the taxi on the way home, I clutched my purse to my chest, my heart raging like a wildfire. I knew then I was no longer alone. I had Vincent, a plan, a perfect disguise. But as the streetlights flickered past the window, a question crept into my mind, slow and venomous. Was this new identity truly strong enough to destroy his entire scheme? The next morning, I woke up early, lighter than I had in years. Sunlight streamed through the window, spilling across the white sheets and lighting up my face. I sat up, and for the first time in so long, I felt like I was actually breathing, not the suffocating air in the glass cage Daniel had built for me, but real air. Daniel had left for a business trip to New York, leaving the house empty. He sent a short, curt text. "Don't touch the paintings and don't do anything stupid. Everything's already set." I stared at the words and let out a small laugh. He had no idea that the stupid thing he feared most was me. I locked myself in his office. I opened my sketchbook, flipping through every line, every detail I had documented about Daniel and Emily. Each word felt like a flame forging my heart into steel. I grabbed a blank sheet of paper and wrote at the top, "Collector L, Day 1. I made a list. Learn to walk tall, chin up, no more cowering like the old Anna. Practice a firm handshake, no trembling. Train my voice to stay low, firm, decisive. Watch art conference videos. Learn to talk about paintings like a true collector." All day, I stood in front of the mirror practicing how to smile faintly, how to lightly touch my wrist when speaking, how to tilt my head just slightly to project power. I played YouTube videos on loop, watching auction footage, noting every tiny movement, every snobby sigh from those wealthy women. By evening, I slipped into a long black dress, stepped into high heels, and pulled on a light beige trench coat. I wrapped a scarf to cover half my face. Staring at my reflection, I saw someone else staring back, eyes no longer desperate for approval, no longer begging to be seen. These were the eyes of someone about to overthrow an empire. I drove to Vincent's small studio on Green Street. He was waiting outside, hands in his pockets, his lips curled into that sly, knowing smile. "Welcome, Collector L," he teased. I let out a small laugh, the first time I truly felt powerful. Vincent taught me how to negotiate prices, how to nod slowly to command authority, how to hold someone's gaze without flinching. I learned to feign disinterest in a painting, then suddenly make an aggressive bid. I scribbled everything down in my notebook, step by step, like an undercover agent preparing for a classified mission. Sweat trickled down my jaw, but I didn't wipe it. I wanted to feel every drop, every burn, every heartbeat. Vincent prepared guest lists for me, inviting me to a few private previews before the auction. Those exclusive wine nights where the rich showed off limited edition handbags, designer shoes, and of course, their latest conquests. At my first preview in a private gallery near the Hudson, I appeared as my new self, Collector L. Curious eyes turned as I entered, my black dress hugging every curve, the red soles of my Louboutins tapping lightly against the polished oak floor. A woman with silver hair floated over, her voice sharp and chirpy. "Oh, are you the mysterious collector everyone's been buzzing about? How thrilling!" I gave her a half smile, tilted my head slightly, and replied calmly, "Just a wanderer obsessed with art." Laughter bubbled around us. I saw eyes gleaming with jealousy, awe, curiosity, feelings Anna had never dared to dream of provoking. All evening, I drifted past paintings, pretending to be unimpressed, then pausing to nod slowly. Vincent stood nearby, watching, occasionally giving me a subtle wink of approval. After the preview, I drove home. That night, I sat at my vanity, peeling off each layer of makeup, slipping off my shoes, letting my hair fall free. In the mirror, I saw two versions of me: Anna, the humiliated wife, and Collector L, the woman ready to crush them all. I laughed, tears spilling over. I felt weak and strong at the same time. I wanted to run, yet also wanted to destroy everything that had caged me. I thought back to that first night Daniel called my paintings trash, to when he yanked my palette away and shouted, "Don't even dream of hanging those things on a wall. Women just cause trouble." And now, I was about to buy back every single piece with the same hands he said were worthless. I was about to turn trash into treasure that the entire collecting world would crave. I stood up and walked to the attic, gently pulling off the tarp. I chose Hazy Dawn, cradling it down to my studio. I set it on the easel, touched each stroke, feeling my heartbeat echo through my fingertips. I opened my journal and wrote, "Tonight, I set one foot into the world of predators. Daniel won't even realize when he's been torn apart." But as I closed the book and stared at the old paint scent wafting from the canvas, a question sliced through me, cold and sharp as a blade. Would he suspect anything when I stood before him as a stranger? The auction day arrived faster than I'd imagined. I stared at the calendar. Each day I had slashed through now boiled down to one single burning red square. Today. I sat at my vanity, my hand trembling slightly as I drew a dark line along my eyelid. Every stroke felt like carving a blade into my new mask, Collector L. I slipped into a deep-cut black dress that revealed my pale, bare back. The warm yellow lights in my room made my skin glow, as if it were lit from within. I smoothed my fingers along my neck, my collarbones, the same spots Daniel used to kiss half-heartedly when he needed to hide his secrets. Outside, New York's night air was crisp. I wrapped a black silk scarf around my shoulders and put on a half mask that covered part of my face. In the mirror, my eyes turned sharp, icy, proud. I closed them for a second, whispering to myself, "This isn't Anna anymore. This is Collector L." I arrived early at Art House Auction, stepping into a sea of people. The low hum of whispers, the clinking of champagne glasses, the flirtatious giggles from crimson lips, it all blended into one glittering, shallow symphony. Daniel stood at the corner of the hall, wearing a perfect gray suit, a deep blue tie, hair slicked back with that familiar arrogant shine. He was laughing, shaking hands, parading around like a lead actor basking in stage lights. Next to him, Emily hovered in a dress so short one wrong move would expose everything. Her eyes sparkled with glee, her hand gripping her new Chanel purse like it was a trophy. I stood far away, raising my champagne glass. hiding behind my mask. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my skull. Daniel didn't recognize me, not even close. The auctioneer stepped onto the podium, voice booming. Tonight, we begin a special auction, the collection of an unknown artist, dubbed the Forgotten Treasure. Starting bid, $50,000. I watched Daniel smirk, nudging Emily, his eyes greedy and shining. The first piece went up. I squinted and immediately recognized it. Last Light, painted during my first winter in Chicago, when I still believed I could find warmth in the cold. 50,000, 55,000, 60,000. I lifted my paddle slightly, my voice rang out, steady and cutting. 150,000. The entire room went silent. Every eye locked onto me. I felt Daniel's breath hitch from across the hall. Then he smiled, satisfied, seeing nothing but dollar signs. Emily clapped excitedly, leaning in to whisper in his ear. The next piece. Again, I bid, quick and sharp, leaving no space for competition. Each strike of the gavel felt like a nail in Daniel's coffin, but he still laughed, still believed he was moments from glory. Vincent stood in a corner, pretending to chat, but his eyes kept flicking to me, nodding subtly every time I won. Then came Hazy Dawn. My chest tightened. I drew a deep breath, steadying my shaking hand. Starting at 80,000, 100,000, 150,000. I raised my paddle, my voice trembling just slightly. 300,000. A gasp swept across the room like a crashing wave. Daniel's mouth dropped open. He whipped around to Emily, his forehead creasing. For the first time that night, worry slid across his face. I saw it, crystal clear. The auctioneer slammed the gavel. Sold $300,000 to Collector L. I felt my legs weaken, but I held firm, a thin smile curving under the mask. I raised my champagne glass, clinking it lightly against a woman's next to me, ignoring my own heart screaming inside my chest. Daniel rushed to the bar, poured himself a drink, his face flushed. I saw him scanning the crowd, eyes darting, but he didn't see me, the trash he used to own. I lowered my glass, pulled out my phone, and texted Vincent. Plan succeeded. I'll wait in the car. I slipped out of the hall, the icy wind slapping my face, but I didn't shiver. In the car, Vincent turned from the front seat, smiling. Congratulations, Collector L. You took it all back. I didn't reply. My breath came out in sharp bursts, eyes burning. In my mind, a tidal wave of memories crashed. Daniel's shouting, his contemptuous eyes, the silent sobs in my studio. It all merged into one violent surge, boiling inside me. Vincent laid a hand on my shoulder, steady and firm. You're stronger than you think, but we must stay cautious. He might start to suspect. I nodded, closing my eyes. Hazy Dawn was mine again. No one could ever take it from me. But as the distant wail of car horns echoed through the night, a question slithered through my mind like a cold snake. Would he figure out my scheme before it was too late? I got home just before midnight. The mansion was silent, not a single light on, but I knew tonight would not be peaceful. I peeled off the dress, removed the mask, and stared at my bare reflection. Red marks lined my shoulders from the tight straps. A few drops of sweat clung to my collarbones. I traced the skin with my fingers, a cold chill sweeping through me. I no longer recognized the old Anna Harper. In that mirror, I saw someone ready to tear through every barrier, someone who would swallow pain whole just to rise above it. The phone rang, slicing through the silence. I glanced at the screen. Daniel. I picked up, feigning a sleepy voice. Anna, are you awake? His voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. What is it, honey? I need to talk about the paintings, the auction. You still trust me, right? I let out a bitter, silent laugh, but kept my tone soft and sweet. I trust you. Come home soon. As soon as I hung up, I burst into sharp, hollow laughter. I rushed to the office, pulled out every file, every email, every recording. Each piece of evidence had been carefully cataloged and hidden away. I had it all. Daniel's calls with Emily, every mocking word, every time he called my work trash. I even had hidden camera footage of him pocketing broker fees, promising Emily he'd clear out the garbage and start a new life. I closed the laptop, stood up, and looked around the house. The wedding photo on the wall had become an empty frame. I felt no anger now, only a chilling calm. The front door burst open. Daniel stumbled in, face pale, tie loosened, eyes bloodshot. He marched to the living room and threw his briefcase onto the couch. Anna, where are you? I stepped out of the office, wearing a thin silk robe. Daniel turned to me, his eyes darting frantically. I can explain. I don't know why the bids went so high, and Collector L, who is that? I think someone's sabotaging me. I smirked, poured myself a glass of red wine, and inhaled its scent deeply. Collector L. Sounds intriguing, don't you think? Daniel rushed forward, grabbing my shoulders. Anna, you have to believe me. I did this for us. I needed the money to secure our future. I laughed, a sharp, wild sound. The wine nearly spilled from my glass. I slipped out of his grip and strolled to the desk, opening my laptop and pressing play on an audio file. Don't worry, babe. That trash will turn into cash for you. I'll get rid of her for good. Daniel's voice echoed through the room, slicing into the air, into his own chest. His face went pale, lips quivering. He stumbled back, hitting the table, almost collapsing. Anna, you spied on me? I said nothing, just opened the next email, then played the video of him counting money and signing deals with the broker. Each piece of evidence slammed into him like a blade. He dropped to the floor, clutching his head, mumbling incoherently. I stepped closer, peering down at him like he was a cornered animal. You called my paintings trash. You called me a useless shadow. But that trash just destroyed you. Daniel lunged forward, grabbing my leg, screaming, Please, I'm begging you. Give me another chance. I'll fix everything, I swear. I pulled my leg away, shaking my head. A promise? Like the one where you swore you'd love me forever? Or the one you made to Emily about clearing me out? Daniel broke down, his forehead pressed to the floor. I took another sip of wine, savoring the bitter burn down my throat. Tomorrow, I said slowly, all of this evidence will be sent to every partner, every investor, every media outlet you've ever charmed. You won't just lose the paintings, you'll lose your reputation, everything you built on lies. Daniel crawled to me, clutching at my robe, voice hoarse. I'm begging you, I'll do anything, name it. I bent down, close enough for my breath to brush his ear. He shuddered. I want you to look at me and remember this forever. Women are not trash. Women can become the sharpest blade you'll ever know. I yanked his hands off, pulled out my phone, and started recording his tear-soaked, broken face. He cowered, trembling like a child afraid of the dark. I let out a soft laugh, echoing through the vast, empty house, bouncing off every bare wall. But within that laughter, a question slithered up from deep inside, twisting tight around my ribs. Would exposing him really give me the peace I had longed for? I sent everything. The documents, the recordings, the videos, the fraudulent contracts to every major newspaper, every art media outlet, and every big investor connected to Daniel. Each email was crafted meticulously, every piece of evidence attached, each subject line as cold as a blade. The truth about the man you once trusted. That morning, sunlight spilled across the living room floor, warm and golden against the polished wood. I stood by the window, coffee in hand, listening to the chime of outgoing emails. Each ding felt like a hammer striking the final nails into Daniel's coffin. Within hours, my phone exploded with calls and texts. Friends, art critics, gallery owners I had once admired, all asking, "Anna, are you okay?" But I barely skimmed them. I didn't want to be okay. I wanted to win. I turned on the TV. A breaking news alert flashed across the screen. Businessman Daniel Harper faces allegations of fraud, embezzlement, and defamation of an artist's reputation. Company shares plummet as investors demand urgent investigation. On screen, Daniel's face was ghostly pale, sweat dripping down his forehead, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly as reporters closed in on him. I laughed, took another sip of coffee, savoring the bitter heat burning down my throat. That afternoon, an email landed in my inbox, a formal invitation from a major Manhattan gallery. "We are honored to host a solo exhibition for you, Miss Harper. The works once hidden away deserve to be seen by the world." I set my phone down, took a deep breath, my whole body trembling. I wrapped my arms around myself, tears pouring hot and heavy down my face. Not from sadness, but because, for the first time, I truly felt seen. On opening night, a long line snaked down the street, camera flashes exploding in the dark. In the main hall, hazy dawn hung proudly in a gilded frame. A small plaque beneath it read, "Anna Harper, reborn from the ashes." A renowned art critic approached me, voice cracking with emotion as he shook my hand. "We owe you an apology for letting your brilliance be buried for so long." I smiled, bowed my head slightly, though my eyes stayed wet. Behind us, the audience clustered around my paintings, gasping over each brushstroke, each color that I had once nearly set on fire in my darkest nights. A young reporter stepped forward, mic trembling in her hand. "Now that you've turned everything around, do you feel happy?" I lifted my head, looking straight into her camera. 1,000 memories slammed into me at once. Daniel on his knees, Emily's sneer, the attic's suffocating shadows, my tears staining cold floors at midnight. My voice came out firm, though slightly trembling. "I don't know if I'd call it happiness, but I know that, finally, I've reclaimed myself." The reporter paused, stunned, before nodding slowly. I turned away and walked deeper into the gallery, every eye following me. Daniel had lost everything. His company was being sued, assets frozen. Emily had vanished without a trace, leaving him alone, despised by the world. I heard rumors he was crashing on an old friend's couch, wandering the city begging for a lawyer to take his case. I stood on stage, preparing to address the crowd. My hands shook, but my smile never wavered. I inhaled deeply, letting the noise melt away until all I felt was my heartbeat. "Tonight," I began, "is a night of freedom, a night for everyone who's ever been belittled, buried, or called worthless. I want you to remember, nothing born from the heart and true passion is ever trash." The hall erupted in thunderous applause. People stood, chanting my name. I saw an elderly woman wiping tears, a young man's eyes lighting up with hope. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just avenging myself. I was standing for every soul who'd had their dreams strangled. As the spotlight shone down, I bowed slightly, glancing at my hands, the same hands once labeled useless, now gripping my own destiny. But then, in the hush beneath the applause, a quiet question slithered in, slicing through my chest. Could I keep painting without this wound haunting me? Or had I just begun the true journey of healing?